Show you. One is going to be this fella here. The other is also going to be putting your highlights on this one. And someone is doing a white one, and I'm going to just show you how to load up your brush so that you can get a little bit of green or a little bit of yellow just to give it a bit of a highlight. Yeah, so I'm going to show you that as well. So to do this one here, excuse me, if you have a look, I've used different colours. Now, I'm just using a flat brush, which will work the same as the little ones you've got. Now, if you find that they're too long, get a pair of scissors and cut them short. Okay?
And cut it in an angle. If you cut it in an angle, you get a point.
Yeah, if you cut it at an angle, it'll help. So you can cut those. Now, put this in my hand because I am messy worker. Oh, yeah, not that one. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to darken the centre and then I'm going to bleed them out. I used like a mauvey colour and a bit of the red, and I just loaded up a bit of each on the paintbrush, so you can see there's a bit on either. There's not a lot. And then I just worked from the centre and just placed that there. Now you've got to work reasonably quick, and then you dip your brush and then you just start bleeding it out. Okay, now then you get this fella and and that will sort of scratch it out a bit, but sort of blends it out. Yeah, so that just, because it's so rough, it sort of gives it that dry brushed look, but without it being like a definite line. Now, the other thing I do too is then I get the brush again, just make sure she's reasonably clean, and I get my white, creamy white, whatever you want to call it, and I load the brush up at the ends, and then I bring the white back down into it. And that's how, and I just bring enough of it in. You can see a little bit of red in that. And then I get that again and I scratch around so that it can bleed it out again. Okay? And the rest you'll pretty much do.
You're doing what we do, not Victoria.
Beauty of this is that Dottie's videoing, so you'll be able to get on and have a look. So again, I've loaded the two colours, which lets me just touch again. Yep.
So you're basically layering it. You just keep going until you've got the desired effect.
I've got a really nice shiny sort of look, not too heavy. I don't want it to look like that. I want it to look sort of softer, because they are petals of flower. And depending on where your light is hitting to, you might want to sort of have it darker on one side than the other. Okay, so then the rest of that will be decorated with thread. Okay, so that's all you need to do with them. Now, highlighting on these, it's hard to highlight on because we're going to couch, but we are going to put a little bit in. So we're going to couch it. Yeah. So I don't want a really solid red. I want sort of really washed out orangey red, and I don't need a lot. So if you can see, I've only got a little bit, see? Right, and it's almost like a, I don't know, like a salmony colour. Now, if my light's coming from this direction, then I'm going to have highlights on here. And I'm literally just touching here and there. Then I'm going to get this fella and I'm going to scratch him in a bit.
So is that dry the second time? That second brush, is that dry?
Yeah, that's just dry, yep.
And you've only put one coat of paint on that, haven't you?
Yep.
I mean, but your red's only one.
This red is two. I didn't put the third one on though, so I didn't make it really deep.
Oh, because I've only got one on.
Yeah, you might need to up the ante. It depends on what colour you want it to be. So the one thing you can't do is delay, because if that dries, you're going to end up with a solid line. So that'll just pop some highlights on one side, and then when you couch, you'll lose some of it, but it'll still show it's highlighted on one side. Same with the leaf. Now, I've got a solid colour there. No leaf is pretty much a solid colour, and I've noticed a lot of you have been putting lots of different tones, trying to get the real tone of a leaf. So I very rarely use black in a painting. I normally use like a really deep browny, reddy brown or something like that, because there's not, black's more of a shade than it is a colour. So what I do is I'll get something like this colour. So it's sort of like a, see? And yeah, it's agate, I call it. Then I grab my dry brush and I make sure it's dry. I haven't dipped this in water yet, and I just grab a bit of it on the end, and I take some of it off. I don't want it too wet, and then I scratch it in. A little bit more than that. Now this helps when you've got. So see how it starts building up. Yeah. It actually helps. Have you got those other brushes there somewhere? Because it helps with a shorter stem. So you'll notice some of them have been trimmed. See, they're like that. See? So I'll get that and I'll dip it in there, take a little bit extra off, and really just scratch it into it. Yeah, it's dry brushing. So if I dip it in there, I've got to really make sure. As soon as I've got too much on here, you'll notice, because it'll do that. Right? That's too much. So now I have to quickly work that in before it dries. So that just shows that they've got a little bit of texture going up and down that leaf. Now, obviously you got lowlights, you need highlights. Same scenario with this. I'll just touch that white, the smallest little bit, just so you can see. Can you see on the end of that? Yeah. So, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do that. Because what I'm trying to do is work the white into the bristles, but not, I don't want it drenched. So here, I just work on the highlights. So see how it starts to highlight certain areas? Can you see?
Yep.
It's very subtle, but it's there.
Yeah.
Now the rest will decorate with stitching.
Yes.
You don't have to paint this to an inch of its life. If you want your highlight on that side, then you need to add your little bit on that side. So these hog hair brushes, although they're cheap, they're really handy for doing this sort of thing, because it just gives you can really be rough with them. Yeah, whereas you wouldn't be rough with those other ones because they're just too expensive. Now, if I've gone too light and I'll go, oh my God, it's too light. Now I need to lighten it. Simple. Get your colour again. I didn't wet my brush. Add it back in to pick up that colour. Just pick up enough of it.
And let the others show through.
Yeah. Just so that it's not, you don't overdo it. Now, I've got a yellow one there, and you sort of look at that and go, oh, how am I going to get that to look natural, because it looks bright yellow.
You didn't get clean water.
I didn't, no, and not one of my entourage has actually filled up my water with a new fresh water.
We all got it.
Except for me.
Yeah.
Go figure. So, with this, I'm going to use the lid, because I can, because they're mine. So, I'm just going to grab some. Now. A second. Forgot. Put the lids on, Michelle. And I haven't used black at all, have I?
No.
Not yet. Not at all. Right there. Because the thread's going to be black.
Even on the yellow, Michelle.
That's going to be hard on the eyes, isn't it? Stitching black.
Yeah. You're going to with the yellow ones of these, you could just thread work without the couching. So you'll have to adjust accordingly, because if you put the black around them, you can do. I mean, you can always try it, see what it looks like, and then go, no, yes, no. Worthwhile trying, but if it doesn't work, it's no big deal. You can always just trim it out. It's pretty easy to get couching out. So, okay, so to get the highlights and lowlights, you can see with this one I've got quite a good highlight and lowlight already, because I've done the white and then I've literally just put the yellow on, and then I touched up with a bit of a darker yellow, this one. And that gave it the darker in the centre. If I've got a white one, so say this one's going to be white, dries pretty quick, hit that white. So get that white. Now I want to then put white petals in. It's just going to disappear, because white and white and white sort of disappears. So I load up half the brush by swiping it through, see? And the other half I just touch very lightly on that green. You see that? So it got both sides. Then with my brush, with the green, it's flat but on an angle. I've got it on like a 60-degree angle or whatever. I'm going to push down and twist at the same time, and do that a couple of times, and then I'll turn it over. You see what's happening? See how it gives it that? And I'll reload the same side and then touch. You get more paint on it this way. And then I'm going to put some yellow in there, because naturally they have all sorts of colours in there. And those big blobs need to come out, so I have to go back. And you'll have to do this a couple of times to get your build up. You can see how it puts that extra colour in there without you having to feel like paint it all white and then go in and paint all little bits of yellow and little bits of green. You can do it in one sort of foul swoop. So you load up one side, might even put that one in there, see what happens down the bottom. It's a bit darker, and load it in. We mashed it up a bit. If you find that it's getting too mashed up, wipe your brush. I haven't put it back in water at all. Load it back up. See? You can start seeing it come together. And you just have to keep going like that, just building it up. And let it dry in between layers.
So does it not matter now that we can't see the white lines on the waratahs?
Not a real lot, because this is where you will literally make your own. Yeah, see, I haven't really followed them on here, hardly at all. If I wanted to accent them now and make them a little bit more vibrant, I've got that one. And again, you see, I took all the water out of the paintbrush before putting it in the paint. And I can now, because it's had so much time to dry, I can now really get that in. And especially with those highlights there, that's really going to stand out. So you can see how it's more like the colour I had in the sample now. And I'm not following any real thing. The lines are great, but they're not a definite. Yeah.
So you'll couch those?
I'll couch in between, yeah.
Bless you. Bless you.
So if I want to make darker areas, then I need to add in another colour. And again, I wouldn't add a black in, because it's already dark enough. So I'd probably add in like the mauve.
Which mauve did you use?
I grabbed that one.
Oh,
yep.
right, yes.
Yep, so I've got one side mauve and one side red, and then I would place the red down, and you get the mauve in there. And it would just give it a little bit of a bling but without overdoing it. So one side with the mauve, the other side, and just see how it looks like it's a natural colour change. If I was to go like load up the paintbrush with all purple and then go back with red, I'm going to have so much paint on it, it's going to be ridiculous. It's either that or I go along the side of each one of these and put in a little bit of purple, but I don't see the purpose in that. I would rather load up my brush with both things and I'll get a more natural sweep.
That's a better sweep.
Yeah, better look to it, and then I can get, again, it's not black, but it gives a darker look to it. So, alright. Yep. So, anything else you want me to show you before? What about this? The jug, the vase. You see what I've done there? So I left, see how because I painted my whole thing and then left it. See that?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Okay, some of you have coloured it in, some haven't.
Exclamation mark.
My exclamation mark. What I did with that, and that's, you can come and use my big brushes, I'll allow it for this. I'll allow it. So get your brush, just dampen it, don't overdo. Fill it up. And get it. And do that. And it looks more like a shine. Alright. And you know, I tend not to waste paint. If I can possibly use it, yeah, I will. So if I want to touch up the sides to get a real highlight, I'll put a bit more white on, more like that. Alright.
So you're saying, like, ones that have only done one coat on the waratah, we really should have two before we start.
Yeah, your second coat isn't a coat. It's your second coat is those petals. So your first coat is this, like filling it in.
Like you showed us. Yep. Yeah. And what you've just done is what? Your second coat.
Yeah. Right. Your second coat should be before what we just did.
Yes.
Yep. So your second coat, you'll be doing this in between. Yes. Yep. Just to fill up. And
just wanted to check. Yes.
Yep. That's all right. No dramas.